Hey everybody, how are you doing? This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. Welcome back to the channel, and today is Saturday, June 12th, which means it is officially the first day of E3 2021, and it feels so good to say that. It has definitely been a rocky road to get here. We obviously had to take last year off for E3 because of the pandemic and all of the different things that we know. But here in 2021, the show is finally returning. Most of the biggest and important companies are involved in the show. That does include Microsoft. Of course, it includes Nintendo, which we've been talking about for about 2 weeks straight or so here on the channel. And now that it's the first day of E3, Nintendo's Direct and Treehouse is still not for a couple of days until Tuesday the 15th, Microsoft is going tomorrow on Sunday the 13th, and there's a couple of other interesting presentations scattered throughout the weekend. I wanted to take some time today on the first day, not only to celebrate the fact that finally we have E3 back, and it is a digital E3 kind of overall show, which is unique and different, and we're going to see how they've adapted to it. I wanted to talk just about kind of some of the overall surprises and the essence and feel of what could be happening going into Nintendo's show on Tuesday. Of course, before we dive too much deeper into the Nintendo and E3 topic, I like to remind you guys that I'm always trying to grow the channel here on Rule of Two Review. I'm trying to cross 17,000 subscribers before the end of 2021. I am very, very close. I upload several days a week, and I tend to live stream around once a week. I will probably be doing a couple of live streams and videos throughout the weekend for E3 stuff. I cover all things Nintendo, I cover all things Metroid, and of course all things gaming, so as you watch this video, if you seem to like what I'm doing and what you hear, then hopefully you will consider subscribing to the channel. So I'll be honest with you guys, I have a very, very loose plan for this video and this topic conversation. In fact, it's so loose you could almost say it's not really even a plan. I just have a mishmash of thoughts and concepts that I just sort of want to get out now that we're finally within the E3 weekend and shows are happening, and we are counting down days and days till Nintendo's Direct, which I am most excited about. It's pretty much, for me, all about Microsoft and the Xbox Series X, and it's about Nintendo and the Switch, and a Switch Pro, a Breath of the Wild 2, maybe Metroid, all these different things, and I just have a lot I still want to talk about. I think first and foremost, it's important to talk a little bit more about the Nintendo Switch Pro, because that was a big conversation. There were reports and rumors and quote-unquote leaks from Bloomberg and Eurogamer and IGN even backing some of this stuff up about a new Switch model potentially being revealed before E3. That was close to 2 weeks ago, and now here we are, and that has yet to happen. To be fair, I'm actually recording this on Friday morning before I start work for the day, so there's going to be a whole 24 hours between the time that I'm recording this and the time this video goes up that, for all I know, in some crazy miracle surprise fashion, a Switch Pro has been revealed. Like late Friday evening or early Saturday morning before this video goes live. I mean, who even knows at this point? But I don't expect that. We're past the time on a Friday morning where typically Nintendo would put a morning announcement out there. So I really feel like there's not going to be a Switch Pro revealed before the end of today or in the morning on Saturday when you guys are actually watching this video. So this is all to say that despite all this conversation about a Switch Pro or a Switch revision being revealed, it hasn't happened. So either that wasn't true, it was a purposeful lie, or maybe it was true at one point and plans changed. Either Nintendo knew the story was getting out there and changed their plan, or they just had other reasons for wanting to move it around. I've discussed it so many times before, including on the past 2 podcasts that I posted on this channel, one with Super Metal Dave, one with Andre's Restart, about the fact that, you know, after a very long, bumpy roller coaster ride with the Switch Pro concept, I've pretty much all but bought in at this point. You know, the Bloomberg reports from the first half of this year have been very compelling. A lot of people talking about it. A lot of people believe in it, including people I know who know things. So, you know, there's enough smoke to the fire that I tend to believe some kind of new Switch revision is coming. I was pretty excited when Bloomberg's report first came out close to 2 weeks ago that said the Switch Pro might be revealed before the show, because if that was true, the idea of new Switch hardware that really added a significant difference in performance or graphics could have been really important to what we would expect at Nintendo's Direct. It was really less about the actual Pro itself and more about how could this impact or improve Nintendo's E3 presence in their Direct and the Treehouse and whatever they would show, or some of the games they would reveal. If it's meant to launch later this year alongside of a big game, such as perhaps a Zelda or something else. That was all very exciting, but now here we are again, you know, Friday morning for me, Saturday morning for you. No Switch revision, Switch Pro, Switch Plus, Super Switch, whatever. And so, whether it's real or not, tough to say. But what has been confirmed is it ain't going to be showing up at their E3 Direct unless Nintendo is lying, because when they confirmed their plans, they said they're only focusing on software. So they've removed the ability to get the Switch Pro out beforehand and then talk about games for the Switch Pro at the show. They're clearly not going to announce the Switch Pro at the show, so if that thing is even real and coming, it's happening sometime later on in the year after E3. Obviously, the games are a big thing to talk about, man. I mean, going into the Direct, and again, the Treehouse, which has such a fascinating sort of structure this year. It's all about what games we're going to see. You know, there are some higher profile games that we know about or have theorized about, have had leaks and rumors and stuff. I mean, Bayonetta 3 is a big one. I recently discussed it. I'm really hoping to see it at the show. I think there's a chance it shows up. Zelda Breath of the Wild 2 is the big one. How many times can we all keep talking about this? Everyone is debating, is that game releasing this year or next year? Is it going to be at E3, or is Nintendo going to hold off until next year's E3? Based on when you believe Breath of the Wild 2 would launch, that probably informs your opinion on when we might see it. And so, I'll just remind you here for the umpteenth time in a video, I tend to believe the game has a great chance at releasing this year, this holiday, which means if that's true, it's like a 99.9% chance guaranteed to show up and be heavily featured at the Direct and the Treehouse. Metroid, obviously still have tons of thoughts about that. There's been Metroid conversations and rumors and quote-unquote leaks and stuff going around in the first half of the year. A lot of it is kind of confirming stuff you might have heard me being talking about on the channel here for the last, I would say, year and a half to 2 years or so. And you know, hey, yeah, I think Metroid has a great chance at showing up. There's going to be a Metroid presence, I think, at the show. So hopefully we're finally in the countdown to seeing Nintendo acknowledge my favorite franchise again, and for a lot of you, potentially your favorite franchise. And we might get that 2D Metroid game. We might get a Prime Trilogy. I tend to believe there is a very strong chance. Obviously not a lock, you guys, but there is a strong chance we're going to see Metroid Prime 4. Some sort of update or teaser, or maybe some gameplay, maybe even a full-blown trailer. I don't really think it's that. I mean, you've heard me say I think a 30-second teaser with just a smidge of gameplay would be enough of an update to say it's coming along, here's a sneak peek at the game, more to come next year. I mean, again, I don't expect that game to release this year, but if it's a holiday 2022 title, they could easily give us that small teaser to remind us it's coming, show us it's looking great, and then let us know that sometime, you know, in Q2 of 2022, they'll give us more info, or at E3 next year, or whatever the case. So, I don't know, you guys. I feel great about Metroid showing up, you know, in a couple of days at E3. Donkey Kong is another game that's had a little bit of a news rotation the past few weeks. There's been a discussion and a quote-unquote leak that a new Donkey Kong game is being made and has a great chance at showing up at E3. A lot of the leaks say it's a 2D game, but there's other reasons for people to believe it could be a 3D game. I'm personally open to either. I do believe this. I will tell you guys that. I believe the Donkey Kong thing. I think that game is real. It's being made. And there's a more than 50% chance, more than 70% chance, I would say, that game is going to show up at E3. I really do think that there's a great chance we see it. And like I said, you know, I'd love a 3D Donkey Kong game, but I would not be bothered by a 2D game the way a lot of people seem to be upset about. A lot of folks are not into the idea of a 2D Donkey Kong game. I'm okay with it, man. I love 2D Donkey Kong. Bring it on. So that's a game that I very much think has a great chance at showing up. Then, of course, the big thing becomes surprises. What games could be discussed that we don't know about? I've long personally believed in Pikmin 4. I know a lot of people have written that game off, and I understand why. Pikmin 4 has gone through the whole weird sort of mysterious cycle that Pikmin 3 went through way back in the Wii days. A lot of you guys may not remember, or maybe are too young to even know, that during the Wii days, Miyamoto talked about Pikmin 3, and for years we kept thinking it would show up as a Wii game, until it never did, and eventually showed up as a game for the Wii U. And it's like, Pikmin 3 is real. It took us like 8 years to finally show you it's real, but it's real. and it didn't come out on the system they first said. It came out on the following system, on the Wii U. And so I feel like Pikmin 4 finds itself in a similar situation where Miyamoto discussed it as a Wii U title. It's never come since then. They haven't talked about it since then. And now we're on to the next console, the Switch. Maybe now is the time to see it revealed and released for the Nintendo Switch. So I may be more optimistic than most people, but I really think there's a chance Pikmin 4 is a game. Then you get into the more obscure stuff that doesn't really yet feel right, like an F-Zero or a Kid Icarus. Two franchises I would love to see return, but are we going to see a surprise to that magnitude at E3? I don't know, you guys. I'd love it, and it's always tough to say and to predict, but I really don't feel we're going to see franchises of that caliber showing up just yet. But hey, hopefully I'm wrong. Of course, the other big factor here is the Treehouse. I mean, this is something I've discussed several times since it was confirmed what they're doing 2 weeks ago. The fact that after a 40-minute direct, they're giving us 3 hours of Treehouse. And as I've said, 3 hours is much different from 3 days, which is what we're used to at E3. With 3 days of Treehouse, there is a lot more possible to show up. And in fact, in 2017, we actually saw an example of when at the E3 Treehouse, they actually decided to announce a game during the Treehouse, which of course was Metroid Samus Returns. I mean, that could not have happened more beautifully for myself as a Nintendo and a Metroid fan. And as Super Metal Dave recently reminded me, they actually went right into playing the game. My mind goes in a lot of directions when I think about what we might be able to expect from the Treehouse. At an E3 sort of weekend and week and celebration, when you're going to hold a Treehouse the way Nintendo typically does it, it makes sense. You get 3 days, you can cover tons of games, including several games multiple times, in like 20 to 25 segments. You get your 5 to 10 minute intermission, they set up for a different game. In the past, they've played Wii games, DS games, 3DS games, Switch games, all these different things, and you can kind of mix and match, and it's really cool. That clearly is not the case right now, and so with only 3 hours, we'd have to think they're going to be hyper-focused on the biggest and most important games. Now, does that mean that they're going to spend or waste some time on games that we already know about that are releasing soon, like a Mario Golf? I know a lot of people don't want that. I kind of think they will do that. I feel like we should prepare for them to maybe, you could argue, waste 20 to 30 minutes on Mario Golf that comes out in just a couple of weeks, and it is going to be what it is. Personally, my whole scheme, my whole sort of investment in E3 this year just comes down to Breath of the Wild 2, and I'm one of those people with the wild prediction. It's coming out this year, it's heavily focused at E3, and so if they give us the date and a new trailer and stuff and a name in the direct, why wouldn't they heavily feature it in the Treehouse? Maybe they dedicate a massive chunk of the Treehouse to just that game. I think they probably will, you guys. Anywhere from an hour to maybe the entire thing being that. But I like to hope that it's not that. Maybe an hour to Breath of the Wild, and then what if they spend 30 minutes on like Splatoon 3, 30 minutes on a theoretical Donkey Kong game, 30 minutes on a theoretical Metroid game, and they do something like that. So they're picking their biggest, heaviest hitters, Zelda, Metroid, Mario, Donkey Kong, stuff like that, and spending the most amount of time on that. I think Bayonetta 3 could very likely be one of those titles as well, if it's confirmed and shown. Let's truly give Bayonetta 3 the spotlight after finally showing itself after years of silence. Now let's give it 30 to 40 minutes in a Treehouse to actually see the game being played, talk to Hideki Kamiya while we play it, other developers, get that whole Treehouse feel for a big third-party exclusive like that alongside of your Zelda and your Metroid. And I think there's a great way for them to make a really short but impactful 3-hour Treehouse. It's high hopes. There's a chance they let us down with the 3-hour Treehouse thing, but I'm just, you know me, I try to play the optimist. I want to believe they chose this because it's the most efficient way to do it. So fingers crossed that it blows us away. And so I really think, man, at the end of the day, I kind of think that's how I feel. That's just some kind of random last-minute thoughts going into day one here that I wanted to sort of just get out of my system to you guys. I kind of use this channel, if you haven't noticed, as a bit of a conduit for me to just empty my head of video game and Nintendo thoughts. That's why I started it in the first place. That's why I'm still doing it all these years later, and I have this small but not insignificantly sized audience made up of you guys who like to tune in and watch me do this with every video, which I'm so super thankful for. It makes it a lot of fun, and E3's back. I mean, what a great feeling this is, man. Last year when E3 was canceled, the pandemic was at its newest, scariest state, everyone, except for myself and a small group of people, were writing E3 off. And they said, that's it. This was the final nail in the coffin. E3's relevance has already been waning. Now it's canceled because the world shut down. It'll never come back again. I never felt that way, and I'm so glad to have been proven right. And I'm glad that those of you who felt that way have been proven wrong, because this means we have E3 back. And thank goodness Nintendo and Microsoft decided to play a part in the return of E3, because it could have been a really sad situation if they didn't decide it. But they did. So E3 Direct, E3 Treehouse coming at us in a couple of days. These are some of my random thoughts going into the show. And with that, this video is a wrap. Tell me what you think about everything below, your own theories. And that's it. So thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob of Rule of Two Review. And I'll catch you next time on another video.